Welcome to another exciting show. A show of this, that, and the other, and not much, well, and too much this and that. Anyway, on with the show. What we're going to be covering tonight is what the title said is false nice person syndrome. Because when I mentioned this the other week, it hit a bit of a raw nerve with people. And so I thought we'd sort of covering it this week, it's for charity. So I'm going to expand a bit more on that. We're also going to look at a very strange thing, and that is, are you sure that your brother or sister is actually your brother or sister? That is mix-ups with birth. And it seems to be more widespread than we think. And I'm not talking about your mummy and daddy being naughty people. I'm talking about mix-ups in maternity hospitals. And I've been looking into some statistics, and it's quite eye-opening. But first, let's go back to false nice person syndrome, which we're going to have a lot of, and also fake statistics. Now, first of all, there's the competition, right? Are you ready? Okay. There's a bit of a comedic answer to this. What is the got the wrong teeth in again. Surely they're my own. What is the similarity between the World War II call-up papers, or if you're or draft papers, as some people call them, to forcibly be shoved into the forces to go and get killed? And that's number one. And number two, these jolly little letters that are going out asking you to go and have an armful of William's Special Brew. So what is the similarity between those two? So it's similarity between call-up papers. Hey, I'm back again. It seems the powers that be are doing their stuff. Everything was working perfectly earlier, and it seems very, very strange. This afternoon, the computer slowed down. It was like looking at, when the internet first started, it was also... Between you and I personally prefer Linux to Microsoft Windows. Because Linux is better, but the trouble is you can't get the range of software on Linux that you can on Windows. So a couple of my computers are dual boot, but I really do not like Windows. I think it's lumpy and horrible. But anyway, on with the program. Now, false statistics. I'm going to show you an example of a false statistic. Well, not a statistic, false public opinion. Okay, now this jolly little leaflet came through my letterbox the other day, and it tells you how marvellous the police are. And it always comes out before they issue the, some people call it council tax. I call it council corruption or council theft, because why should you pay additional tax to a bunch of criminals in the council? Anyway, talking about criminals, this is from the police. See, everybody gets one of these, and there's a bloke who's a he's a police and crime commissioner for Hertfordshire. Okay, now just read this little piece out. There it is, and this is the bit. Oops, wrong side. This is the bit that I'm going to read out. Okay, and it says here, officer. No, this is by a geezer. What's his name now? Well, I better not say his name, but anyway. Officer numbers in the county are already higher than a decade ago and are on course to increase to 2,314, the highest number ever, by early 2023. At the start of 2020, now this is the bit, this is interesting. At the start of 2020, an overwhelming majority of residents told me they were happy to pay an average of £10 a year more council tax to support the increase. I hope you are reassured that even after this increase, you continue to pay one of the lowest contributions for police in England and Wales. Can you smell something? Cats? Dogs? No. I think it's bullshit, isn't it? I mean, how can you prove it? You know, an overwhelming majority of residents told me that we're happy to pay an average of £10 a year more council tax. Really? Is that true? Well, you know, when I couldn't get to sleep last night. It was bloody kind of my own. Up a ladder tapping on my window, saying, "Darling, I love you," you know, and all that crap. I just, you know. But do you believe that? No, it's bullshit, isn't it? Yeah, that's bloody bullshit as well. That is a stake. That is an absolute. To me, I'm sorry. How can he prove that? I could say, I walked down the road the other day, and the overwhelming majority of people said they like wearing masks. I made it up. I don't know. Anyway, before we go any further, let's have a quick look in chat, shall we? What we got here? Hello, Louise. Sorry I froze earlier. Louise Wilcox. And we got Magic J. Hello. And what we got here? This is Louise Wilcox. Picking on low-income community elements equals policing nowadays. The elite are exempt. The poorer are not allowed to build communities. Yeah. But really, the policing apparently has changed since the 1960s, in that they used to prevent crime. Now, so I've been told, they let it happen and then try and solve it. Duh. It's like saying, I don't think I'll put a lock on my door, and if someone breaks in, I'll try and solve why they broke in. No, you put a lock on your door, don't you? But these statistics are not new. These fake sort of, you know, overwhelming majority of people told me. It's like, you know, several videos back, I said, if I put a white coat on, okay, I held my lapel, I looked skyward and said, do you know that the overwhelming majority of robins prefer birdseed to earthworms? In fact, it's 95%. Right. Now, if someone just tuned and switched off now, they'll believe it, wouldn't they? I've just made that up. I'm not an ornithologist. I know very little about robins. But if I was selling bird food, I'd say that. I'd say, areas, wild birds, you know, they're much more prefer, you know, bird seed to wild worms. Yes, it gives them sore throat, you know, these worms. But really, who's to say what's wrong or what's right? I mean, and my dear old daddy told me that before World War II, people really didn't want war. They really didn't want it. And the government did then, in the newspapers, what they're doing now about this FLU. And that is hyping the public up. And I believe it was Churchill, who was a backbencher then, he was an MP for Chinkford, said the overwhelming majority of people in the UK want the government to introduce conscription, which is compulsory military service. Wrong. The majority of people in the country didn't want conscription. And there was a ship, the name escapes me now, and I'll find this out for now next week, that in 1939, directly war was declared. The a German U-boat sunk it with a torpedo, and it was revealed that on board that ship it was full of the elite sons and M&P's sons who were the right age for military service, making a run for it to America to escape it. Somebody in chat might be able to remind me of that. I made notes of it and I forgot where I put my notes. Silly me, silly me. Hello, Ralph. Evening. Now, what Caroline and I are looking at for next Wednesday's, coming Wednesday's program, which is about eugenics, is a situation that the deeper we look into it, the more our eyes open. And on Wednesday, I will be revealing somebody you would least expect to be a eugenicist. And it shook me, and I did a double take on it. So tune in next Wednesday. And the competition for next Wednesday is, here we go, is the odd one out competition. And it is what has one fanatical kamikaze pilots. Well, sorry, what's the odd one out? Fanatical kamikaze pilots, number 1. Number 2, Dolly Parton. Number 3, Lab Rats. Number 4, Michael Caine. And number 5, those taking the King's shilling in 1914. Don't worry, that will be coming up on the advert for next Wednesday's show. So you'll have to tune in to find out. No, you know, yeah. So you tune in then at 6 o'clock next Wednesday. And tonight's one is what has World War II call-up papers and the letter inviting you to have a armful of Williams toxic brew pumped into you. What have they got in common? So any smart asses out there thinking, what have they got in common? And it's not really to do with law. It's a bit of a comedic answer, so a bit of it awful there. Right, now back to tonight with the hello. And have you seen these programs, these things that, you just come along? I've actually found the fake person syndrome seems to be in the pubs. I saw an advert for a pub, you can come along when the cockdown is eased and providing you sit down and someone will take you to your seat and then you do this and then you do that. And you've got to be on edge all the time that you're doing the right things. I mean, I think someone has to escort you to the loo, see that you're actually there. They do a wee and then come back again. But that is a psychopath's heaven. It really is, because they're obsessed with rules and regulations. So you've got to think all the time what you're doing. Have I putting a foot wrong? Should I do this there? And should I do this, Right. What we got here? Oh, we got some clever sod in chat. Here he comes. Ralph, Chris, do we win a prize? Yes, the prize is an exclusive raspberry blown at Boris. How's that? So whoever wins this, I will do live on air without any safety precautions, a raspberry and perhaps a 2-finger salute to Boris. So there we go. Do they shake it for you in the loo? That is an interesting thought, isn't it? Nice barmaid, isn't it? Crumbs, I'd drink a lot, so I'd need to go to the loo a lot, wouldn't I? Anyway, hello, Angela. Good evening, Chris, and ladies and gentlemen. Hope everyone is well. Oh well, I also hope everyone is well. I feel all right, mustn't grumble. Now, hello, we got someone to the answer. We got Louise Wilcox. Conscription and special brew link could be that they both are not worth wiping your bottom on. Yes, that's a possibility. Yeah, we can put that in. Ribis is a little bit of a comedic answer. Right. Thanks, Chris. Can't wait to hear that. What, the answer to that or next Wednesday? Right. Okay, so I'll let you out your misery. Okay. What they've both got in common is the call-up paper and the paper that want you to have the old in the arm, is they're in my view both cunningly worded invitations for you to go and get killed. That's my view. Because that's what Spike Milligan said about his call-up papers during World War II. It was a cunningly worded invitation to go and get killed. And I think this is what this paper is. But so I've heard is that, I mean, I've only just received it. And I was pretty careful with it. I folded it up carefully, tore it in half and shoved it in the bin. So it's now going down the dump. And that's all it's fit for, actually. But apparently they follow up with a phone call. So I'm probably expecting that in a couple of weeks' time. And so I've been told on Facebook, somebody told me that they say why. And what they're trying to do is to ask you questions that helps the government's psychological research team. So be careful. And one of the things they say is they have a duty of care. Nice little bit of neuro-linguistic programming there, isn't it? Duty of care. We've got a duty of care. Bullshit. So did Dr. Howard Shipman. He had a duty of care and all, didn't he? And the other one is, we need to adjust your medical records. Now, what those two statements are aimed at is to work psychologically on you so that people think, oh, I won't get treatment for anything else if I refuse this. Very careful, very clever. So I'm prepared, and what I'm going to say is my decision is final, no more to be said, number one. Or the other thing is, apart from identifying who I am and saying that I don't want it, I do not answer any further questions. Bang, just bank them off like that. Well, can you just answer this, sir, will you? I do not answer any further questions. And but don't give them much information. You know, the worst thing you do is give them information, because remember, they're going to use that, because apparently you get several phone calls. That's what I heard. But I'm next directory, so so they'll phone me up. I don't know. I don't. But I like what that chap Borg, I think it is, from Norway said. He said, "Make yourself unobtainable." I think it's quite an interesting one. So you can always phone up and say, "Could I speak to whoever, please?" I'm afraid he or she is unobtainable. Or it used to be in a meeting. They're in a meeting. But unobtainable is better, because if it's a phone number you don't recognise, mind you, it might be so I've had that said, well, actually, I've just found the will, your great uncle or auntie Dooflop, who's leaving you £3 million. But as is unobtainable, we'll have to go to the next member of the family. Right, let's have a quick look in there. Now, I've got some advice here. What we got here? Christian special could be both. Oh, yeah, sorry, I've already read that one out, haven't I? Thanks, Chris Cotwell. Right, here we are. Right. They also follow up with a second letter. Blimey, they don't leave you alone, do they? I tell you what I was a bit pissed off with. That is NHS on the outside of the letter. I don't like that coming through my letterbox. I'm not a snob, don't get me wrong. But, people might think, what if he's suffering for something? Wonder if it's contagious, what he has or something. But I don't want that all over I don't want it splattered all over the front of the envelopes. To me, a letter is private. And I don't really want, I don't mind advert for, I don't know, buy a Ford motor car. I don't think I do that, or buy whatever. But NHS is a bit too personal coming through your letterbox. Mind you, as I say, it was only in my hands, the letter, for a matter of about 2 minutes before it was shoved in the bin. So there we go. And and several phone calls, which I ignore. Yeah, that's quite right, DJ B2. Well, I'll let you know if I get any phone calls. Hope not. Duty to kill, that's right. We got something from Louise here. I had my phone call, said no, had a letter after that, didn't have any details to contact them. If it looks like shit and smells like shit, it must be shit. Well, as Caroline and I have found out, the NHS I think it should be called the National Health Service, because when it was set up in 1948, I strongly believe, I can't speak for Caroline, obviously, but I think she believes, well, you have to ask her, that it was set up for eugenics purposes. I really do believe that, because it seems that everything we've been told, we've got to reverse. You just got to reverse everything, you know. But back to, we're going off the plot here, back to nice person syndrome. You know, you see the adverts. If you could try and find some of the best adverts of, hello, come get your, you know, and all that sort of shit. But they reckon that the real problems will kick in, and maybe in about 3 or 4 years' time. And somebody said was it Chekhov disease that they had with man-cow disease? They reckon it could affect T-shirt sales in that. You know, it's, well, to me, it's a sort of voluntary euthanasia in many ways. Because what shocks me, I mean, is how people readily believe government. I mean, something that, going back to my dear old dad, unfortunately, tomorrow is the anniversary of his death, so I'm a little bit choked. But he said, to the day he died, now he was born after World War One. I mean, and he said it always puzzled him why in World War One men were falling over themselves to volunteer to go to the front. He couldn't understand it. What is it? This sort of, well, I was going to say lemmings, but lemmings do not commit suicide. It was Walt Disney, to make the film more interesting, making out that they committed suicide, but apparently they don't. That's a falsehood that I thought was real for years, but it isn't. But let's say, why do people en masse just copy people? I mean, the more I look at the statistics and what government and that are putting out, nothing adds up. It's all, you know, you look at the Office of National Statistics. If the thing was as severe as they say it is, then we would have bulldozers making mass graves and there'd be people pegging out everywhere. And I mean, last year, I cycled past a cemetery. I didn't see one funeral there. And normally, years prior, I've seen the occasional funeral turning up there. I didn't see one. And apparently, there's no more extra deaths last year than any other years. That's from the Office of National Statistics. So, you know, don't people smell a rat? Why do they instantly believe these educated twits who are absolutely terrifying, who are psychopaths, I believe, in government? And they're advisors or so-called advisors. Because what I have found with psychopaths, they are very naive, incredibly naive. And I'll be going on to that a little bit later when I'm talking about, excuse me one moment, mix-ups of birth in hospitals where parents get the wrong baby. Because really, you know, it's, I don't know. That's something I do not understand about humans. The wolf pack attitude, you know, where because because the government says do something, they do it, you know. Right, we got something here from Phil. Hello, Phil. Chris, there's a couple of YT guys putting a clip out there from a new Amazon program called Utopia. And in there, they talk about a, you know what, being for sterilisation. Yes, I've heard that as well. Because let's face it, they've got to get a huge amount of people done in this country to meet the requirements of United Nations Agenda 2030, haven't they? And it says here, DJ, funny that this is also a census year. Yeah, actually, I had the form through the other day and I thought, bloody hell, this is a bit small. You've got to do it online. Sodom. You can't teach stupid, but you can certainly lead it. You spot on there, Louise. John Cusack is the actor. That's interesting. Now, before I go further on about Forrest Nice Person Syndrome, I must go on again about comments, because thank you very, very much for everybody that comments on the comments page. And I thought I'd solved the problem with YouTube censoring comments. Wrong. Because poor old John the other day, he did a very, very long comment, and YouTube took it off. And I couldn't even see it because I can sometimes see the comments when they have been taken off, and I couldn't even see it then. So it's really getting bad again. But what gets me about PukeTube, as I call them, is they'll allow trolls to come through, no problems at all. And they'll also allow sexy babes, sex. And I have to jump online and delete them as quickly as possible. Get the old porno brigade. Oh, they come through. No problems at all. Make up your own mind why they let them on. I don't know. But decent comments, really nice comments. It really breaks my heart. I mean, I've had it myself. I actually made a comment, a very long one, to some friends of mine from the Netherlands. And I sent it through on their comments page on their video, and it disappeared. And they actually found it in their spam folder. I mean, and there's nothing on there about politics or anything like that. It's very, very innocent. It was about camper vans. I don't know what could be said about camper vans, but weird, isn't it? You know. So the problem I've got, and you might be thinking, well, hasn't he solved the problem yet? I thought, oh, I know. I'll go over to BitChute. That's an idea. Because you'll be able to make comments on there, won't you? Wrong. I've got a link down below here to the BitChute site, but I don't think I'll be keeping it very long, because I subscribe to a lot of channels on YouTube, on BitChute, and they're censoring like mad, like PukeTube. And I couldn't believe it. There's loads and loads of sites on there that were really good content from my research, gone, completely disappeared. So PukeTube, no. I then thought of the idea of, people have mentioned other areas, you know, brand new trip. Sorry, I just can't get on with that. That seems to, well, there's very few people look at it. I mean, I've downloaded some videos on there, and I think the maximum I've had is about 6 people look at it. You just don't get the numbers up on there. I've also looked on another one that somebody mentioned in the comments section. Thank you very much. I've checked that one out, and there's loads of other ones. But what I'm looking at the moment, because I think if you leave it to somebody else, i.e. a third party, you're going to get problems. So I believe in cutting out the middleman. So I'm looking at my own website and finding out how I can put videos on there, and you can comment on there. I mean, I did think of the idea of putting up a email address, but then if I put an email address up, I'll have to cut and paste the comments into my website, which is not very good. It's all secondhand. It's a bit lumpy. Also, when this video is done tonight, it'll be at least 28 hours, and sometimes there's a couple of days before I can download it. So, you know, so those of you wanting to look on another platform would have to wait about 3 days maximum, even more, before you can download it. So we're a bit snookered, but I'm sure where there's a problem, there must be an answer. Okay, right. Now, let's go back to fake nice person syndrome. And I go back about quite a few years, about a decade or two ago, and not far from where I live, there used to be a steam engine rally. And it was, I like steam engines, because to me, a steam engine is a work of art. It really is. And there's something about them. Something between you and I, don't tell anybody this, that I've never been able to understand about my own mentality. And that is, now, until a few years ago, I couldn't cry. And the reason why is when I was a kid, boys didn't cry. So you bottle it up. And I had to learn how to do it. But But what I was going to say at steam engine rallies, whenever I saw these fair organs, these steam organs, I got choked. And there was a girl there once at the steam engine rally. She got choked as well. Why? I don't know. Isn't it weird, isn't it? I wonder if it's something in a past life. Weird, isn't it? It really is. And anyway, on with the story. I used to go to this steam engine rally, which was in the middle of a field. So if there was crowd, I see, I don't like crowds, but as it was in the middle of a field, that was okay. And as I say, I love steam engines. And I used to go there, and it used to be a few pence to get in. It was very cheap to get in there. And they had a market there, and you could buy Victorian tools at this market, and they had people selling crafts, and it was fantastic. And I used to love looking around at it's these huge engines that are built in the Victorian times, and absolute geniuses. Because in those days, to become an engineer, you didn't need loads of qualifications. All you did, you just set an apprenticeship, and when someone said, yeah, you're good enough to be an engineer, you were an engineer. And it's the same in architecture and loads of other things. Like, for example, Franklin Lloyd Wright was an American architect in the 1920s and 30s, and he didn't have a qualification to his name, and he's one of the finest architects ever. And qualified architects started to get a bit iffy, so he said, right, I challenge you. Ask me any question you like, at any time, any place, and we can film it, and ask me anything about architecture. And they backed off, because he'd have eaten them for breakfast. But Franklin Lloyd Wright, look him up on Google. Good architect. Some of it, not all his stuff was good, but pretty good. Some of his stuff. Anyway, what I was going to say is that I think the education system is arse about tit, because if a person's got an aptitude for something, why do they need qualifications and X, Y, and Z, and maths and God knows what? And if they don't get those qualifications, they don't stand a chance. That, to me, is wrong. And I think the Victorian idea was far, far better. If you had the aptitude for something and you went through all the training, and it was the same with nurses, if they went through the training and the head matron and everybody said, yes, this person's competent, they were a nurse. They didn't need O-levels in maths and geology and Uncle Tom Cobley and all. You had to have the aptitude. And it's the same with, artists. If you go and study art, you have to have an O-level in this and A-level in that. Well, you might not have an aptitude for O-levels in art, in maths and biology or whatever, but you've probably got an aptitude for art. And I think we're actually destroying a lot of creativity because of this. But that's another subject. Anyway, on with the story. I went to used to go to this steam engine rally, and it really was good. And then suddenly, I don't know if they had a change of ownership or what, but Charities got in on the they actually got in on it. And somebody must have thought, it's a good idea. And one year, the whole atmosphere of the place changed. Now, you used to at a huge field to park your car, and often that was absolutely choco, and you had to park it around in the little village somewhere and walk into it, because there's so many people there. Well, this particular year, I went along there, and it just was a different atmosphere. And the stalls, where there was a huge market there was only about half a dozen. Wow. Well, when you walked in, you had people with buckets, charity, charity, charity. And it was really intimidating. And you walk across this field, and it was like running the gauntlet. You had people either side with buckets shaking them like this. So you'd sort of walk on. And I thought, this is not right. And they'd be coming up to you, excuse me, sir, I'm sure you give to this charity. I'm sure you give to that. I'm sure. And it's always the nice smile. And I was just pissed off with it. And I was standing looking at a steam engine. Someone came up to me. It's a nice engine, isn't it? I can't remember exactly what he said. I said, yeah. Oh, yeah, marvellous, those old engines, aren't they? And I could tell this bloke was a bit shallow and didn't know anything about steam engines. So I was just sort of, yeah. And then I'm sure you'll give to such and such and such and such a charity, won't you? And at that point, I just stormed off. And strangely enough, the next year, I think it went for another couple of years, and it stopped, the steam engine rally, and it said, through lack of interest. The public literally turned their backs on it. They didn't want to have that harassment. So they can overdo it with charity quite a lot. I mean, I know there's quite a few good charities, I suppose. It's the big ones I question. But that really got me. I thought, bloody hell, I mean, and the strange thing is the year before it was cancelled, I went past it because I said I'll never go again, and there was hardly anybody there, and that's why they closed it down, because hardly anybody went. They kind of twigged that the charity situation was driving people up the wall. Anyway, back into chat, and we go on to the next subject. Now, maybe tried. Oh, this is about the problems with the comments. Maybe try doing webinars. I would happily subscribe using my email, which when you send webinar link to on the day. Now that's interesting, Louise. I don't know anything about webinars. I really don't. But with what you've told me, and also what somebody told me the other week about something similar to YouTube, which is pretty good, I'm going to look into it this week, because I've got to do something soon, because it's unfair on people. They do lovely comments and they disappear, and what I'm frightened of, they might think it's me that's doing it, and I'm not, and I get really upset. And I know there's been a couple of other comments that I tried to catch, but they suddenly disappeared, and they're really nice comments. So those people that commented, I do hope they're watching this week and they weren't pissed off and thought, what's he censored my comment for? Because it wasn't me. The only comments I censor is very rude trolls and naughty Randy babes XXX, all that sort of stuff, And we got Saul Bollocks. Oops, late again. Hi. Sorry, I ain't missed much. Right, now, next subject. Now, I've been looking at some statistics. And I'm going to tell you a little story now. Hello, it's gone again. The powers that be, they're doing it again. Right, you might have a brother or sister who they used to say is the milkmans. That was the old statement. Hello, we've got another comment here. What's this? Hello, Phil. Oh, yeah, I said hello before, didn't I? Cancer charities are the only ones that get me. Yes. Eerie Penny. I have to a chance cancer charity looking for the cause of cancer, but not the cure for cancer. I've yet to hand over a single penny. Same here. It's I believe it's a scam. And there's a radio station that plays, I won't say which they are, but they play nice classical music, and they have nothing but cancer charities adverts on there. I'm not blaming the channel, because they've got to get their revenue in to pay for the channel, so I'm not blaming the channel. I mean, let's face it, if you or I ran the channel, the charity came along and said, we appear you so much to put our adverts on, I think you think, yes. Right, it says here, was it? Now back to children. Louise Wilcox. My brother was the gas man's, apparently. Why, she always windy. Well, let's face it. Look at Harry, Prince Harry. Now, he's Hewitt's, isn't he? I mean, let's face it, he's ginger. You look at Hewitt and you look at Harry. They're ringers, aren't they? And we've got someone. Hello, Eric Lane. Hello, Silent Tavern. Right, now, Again, you look around the royals. I mean, they're a typical example of close cousins marrying. I kind of liked Diana. I thought she was a nice person. But the thing is, what you got to remember is what you see with the royals is not necessarily they actually ride on PR, and it's so funny how the royals. There was always a story about the royals when the government's doing something sneaky behind the scenes, as they are now, I believe, and it takes people's attention away from the situation. But no, I've got a personal story about the possibility of, let's go into the birth. I've been looking up some statistics here, okay? And the NHS is a little bit tight-lipped about statistics. So I believe these are American statistics because the NHS, I had a good sniff around and they're a bit... And it said here, out of 4 million births, 28,000 gets switched over. 28,000. That is 1 in every 1,000. Now, I don't believe that statistic. I think it's more. I really do believe it's more. Because how many times, excuse me, I must have another glug. How many times, I mean, have you seen somebody that looks completely different to the rest of the family? Now, as I've said, my sister is much older than me, and she was born on Boxing Day, day after Christmas, early in the morning. And I believe the staff at the hospital where she was born were on the Terps. Remember, it was Christmas, and they muddled the babies up. And when they came to give the babies to the mothers had to work out whose baby was who. And and they gave the wrong babies to the wrong mothers because I think, excuse my language, the staff were pissed. Well, my mum, I said to my mum once, "Are you sure you got the right one?" And she said, "Oh, a mother knows her baby." She always said that. "Oh, a mother knows her baby." But this is a strange story because now I was born at home, so I'm definitely my parents. I know who my parents are. But my sister, now I say mother knows her baby, but remember, a woman's hormones are all over the place after they've given birth. And that's why with other animals, like pussycats, for example, you'll find a mother will have a litter of kittens, and if a little chicken or a goose comes along, it'll actually look after that goose as if it's a kitten. And there's lots of pictures of cats adopting chickens and geese and little baby ones and puppies, even dogs, because the kitten, the cat that's it's given birth, the hormones are all over the place. And as I say, I'll be as brief as possible with this, but my sister, directly I was born, the first words she said when they shouted down the stairs, "It's a boy," was, "Oh no!" And she hated my guts from there on. And she always acted aloof, as if she is adopted in many ways, but she wasn't. And her behaviour got stranger and stranger as she got older, but she always had that sort of, and she looks, and some people say she looks like her mum, but I don't know. She does look very different in many ways. Now, Louise has mentioned something here. What's this? And the nurses thought I was mad when I wouldn't let my babies out of my sight. Very good point, Louise. Very good point. Now, how many mess ups do they make? Just think this, because I don't believe that statistic. I think there's more. Because if they accidentally give the wrong baby to the wrong mother, and the mother takes it as their own? Are they going to say, "Oh, sorry, we made a cod's up here," and take the baby away? No, they just say, "Oh, sorry, that's all right. It'll be all right." But my mother, I say don't speak ill of the dead or anything like that. I'm not doing that. But my mother she always was thought, yes, that's my daughter. But my sister was very cold to my parents, very cold to me. I mean, I've never had a sisterly hug. If I fell down and scalded my knee or something like that, my sister would just look at me and probably laugh. And it's awful. I can't really explain it. But my sister, my parents and my family are all very... We're not Italian. We're like the Italians. You're very huggy, very warm, very like to be, full of kisses and things. My sister, oh no. She's absolutely ice cold. The only time she's given me a kiss is when I bought her an expensive Christmas present. And then it was sort of as if it was like kissing a frog. It was... Oof, And when my elderly parents got frail, my sister sort of, well, I won't go into the details, but she absolutely awful to them and ice cold. And she has no feelings for human beings at all. If she saw a crippled child or anything like that, now I would be very choked and I'd feel, oh, that poor kid. Can I help? Oh, poor child. And I'd really be upset. My sister would sort of go, oh. Or say, oh, look, he's got a funny walk. Look at his funny walk. Sick. And her husband is very similar. I mean, I think her husband's a psychopath. And it's toxic, her attitude. Now, she wasn't brought up like that. But she always acted as if, well, she's always hated my guts. But she's always acted as if she's slightly aloof, as if we're not her family. And as she got older, she sort of took on the characteristics of a different culture. I mean, her skin is slightly darker. Her hair is slightly darker. I mean, when I was born, I was blonde. My mum said I was blonde, and then it slowly went darker, my hair. But we didn't have dark hair, but it's something... And for ages, I mean, I had a girlfriend once that had a little brother, and her little brother fell over and hurt his knee, like children do, and she really mothered him. Oh, you're all right, it's okay, and all this. And I actually got choked, and my girlfriend said, why are you choked? I said, well, I've never had that from a sister. My sister just is ice cold and hated me all the time. And we did get a little bit, I wouldn't say close, we tolerated each other when we got more mature and I went to work, started work. And but then she met her future husband, and being a psychopath, he turned back to hating everything and everybody. Now, I haven't seen my sister since my dad's funeral, which is, he died 11 years ago tomorrow. And I haven't seen her for 10 years, well, almost 11 years now. And I don't really want to see her. But I don't know what she said to the family, because I don't really have anything to do with the family either, because it's a long, long story and I won't go into it. But the point I'm getting at is I think my mother had doubts before she died, because my sister used to gaslight my mother. When I say gaslighting, if you look that up in psychology, I won't go into explaining it now, but it's sort of making out a person's mad when they're not. And she then psychologically tortured my father. She tried to psychologically torture me. Full of hate. She's absolutely toxic. Now, I know a DNA test would prove for sure whether she is my sister, but I keep away from her because she's so toxic. And as I say, I keep her at arm's length. I just don't know if she's still alive or not. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know if anything happened because my brother-in-law probably wouldn't contact me, so I don't know. Anyway, And she does send me an occasional letter, but it's all about herself. She sent a letter that she's getting ailments that are genetic, but they're not genetic of my family. That's very strange. Now, she might be my sister, but I'll tell you something, if it was found out she wasn't, I'll be a very happy person. And a few years ago, I did try and find out, but it's very difficult after all these years to see if I really have. She really is my sister. And I'm wondering if someone came forward. Now, if you know the female that was born in Camberwell Hospital, and I won't say the year, let me know, because if she matches the year and there's a DNA test, I might find my real sister. But it's a hell of a job, and I don't think I could find it now. But I just like to think that maybe she isn't. Now, I'm wondering how many other slip-ups at birth there's been. Because there's so many. Because years ago, in the Victorian times, majority, well, all people, with the exception of the very rich, were born at home. So they knew who the baby was, unless mother or father got up to a bit of hanky-panky. But, it just makes you wonder how many other mishaps of birth there's been. Mind you, if I did find out that I do have a real sister somewhere, she might turn out that, because she'd been brought up in a different family, she might be completely different to what I think. But it's an interesting point, and I just wonder if anybody else has come across this at all, because it's probably altering DNA and that. And again, since more people are born in hospitals now, very few people are born at home. How many mix-ups are there? And could it be a lot of these stupid MPs and twats that we have just running society? And when you look at what's happening to society, like we got these, lefty loonies and people like that, could they have been a mix-up at birth? Maybe, because let's face it, it must, because they reckon that if a person is adopted, they know it. There's something that lets them know that they're adopted. There's a sort of a gut feeling. And I'm wondering whether there's a lot of other, this sort of mixing up of birth, because apparently the royals used to do it. If there was a birth that was disabled, they'd swap the babies around. So I heard. Anyway, what we got here? Louise. There was a song made about us black sheep. Yes. So I'd be quite interested to hear anybody else's stories and what you really think about this. This is this mixing up at birth, because, when you rely on somebody else, I mean, to say being born on, as my sister was, Boxing Day, and I presume the staff were pissed out of their brain. Can you imagine coming out just sort of, I think that one's there, that one's there. It's so odd, isn't it? And also, what this might be doing to society as a whole. Just, again, think this one through, Interesting. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me this evening. It's very kind of you. So it's not a very long one tonight. And no dirty joke this week. The one I had reserved is so foul, YouTube would definitely knock me off. So, but please join Caroline and I, and we've got a really exciting one coming on. I'm going to actually announce someone that you would least expect who's a eugenicist. And remember the competition for next Wednesday. It's odd one out competition. Remember, it's 1, fanatical kamikaze pilots, 2, Dolly Parton, 3, lab rats, mortal kind, and those taking the King Shilling in 1914. And incidentally, as we've got stars now giving us medical advice to have them, are we going to see people like Michael Caine at the dentist? You go into the dentist, he says, no shot all about dentistry, but I think you need filling. Excuse me, love, how do you switch this bleeding drill thing on? Open your mouth. It's getting that way. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Remember to tell others and subscribe. Ding, 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 ding. I'll bring that little bell. Ding, 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 ding. And also, if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, so I don't mean sort of take me out and buy me a cup of it. You can buy a cup of coffee. There's details below this video on how to make a cup, not make a cup of coffee, buy a cup of coffee. All helps the old coffers, doesn't it? Shows me playing the Coleman paper outside the Tesco's, doesn't it? And I'll be seeing you this Wednesday at 6 o'clock, same place. And also join me next Monday at 8 o'clock. And thank you very much. And good night.